Welcome to episode 22 of the Brew Crew Scoop. It's Scoop and Cole here. Christian Yelich episode. Big news in Milwaukee. Top prospect Tyler Black just was announced that he's coming up to join the big league club. Dude's been red hot in AAA. He's had like 4 or 5 home runs in the last 2 weeks. Dude's ranked at every single level, so we will see Tyler Black in a number 7 Brewers uniform, I would assume, in the lineup tonight, and if not, definitely tomorrow. So excited to see Tyler Black. No, not tonight? You're shaking your
I
head.
think at least the lineup I saw earlier, he wasn't in,
Okay.
but maybe they changed it. That
Okay.
happened once this year where the graphic was
Yeah.
up and they changed it.
Yeah. Well, they did make it official already. They moved Wade Miley to the 60-day IL and optioned Owen Miller. So it is official for tonight's game. So we'll see. We'll see if we see him tonight. I bet we will, but I don't know about in the starting lineup. But what's going on, Cole?
You know, just going through the memory of the game last night we were at. Hopefully, um, the team can bounce back after another tough one to swallow with some umpire. I don't want to say interference because I'm sure we'll talk about it, but last night's call by the book possibly was called correct, but that doesn't mean the book's right, you know? But
Yep.
yeah, hopefully the boys are maybe fired up from that and can utilize it.
Yeah, a couple tough ones, and we'll get right into it for the recap since the last time we were together. Last time we recorded, the Brewers were in the middle of game 3 against the Pirates of that 4 game set. They took a 3-2 win in that game. William Contreras had 3 hits, and the bullpen had 4 2/3 scoreless after Bryce Wilson made a start. We've seen him plugged in the rotation right now. And then game 4, the Brewers earned the series split with the 7-5 win. An El Gary bomb. Gary Sanchez took 102 up and away off of Aroldis Chapman and sent it the other way into the right field bleachers at PNC Park. William Contreras also homered. Like I said, they won 7-5. Big to take the split there in that series. And then Yankees came to town on Friday. Joey Ortiz had his first career home run, and then he also walked out the Yankees in the bottom of the 11th inning with a single. Awesome to see for him. He's been sneaky good. Nothing too crazy, but I feel like he's not getting enough love in a lineup that's been really hot. So good to see Joey Ortiz playing well, the newcomer, the rookie. And then game 2, Brewers got blown out by the Yankees, 15-3. Joe Ross and Thiago Vieira got touched up pretty bad. And then game 3 against the Yankees, lost 15-5 again, but this is the first of the 2 calls we're alluding to. So questionable call in the 6th inning. Game was tied 4-4. Abner Uribe came in and it was run on first, nobody out. And double play ball, flipped it to Willie at short. Aaron Judge slid into the base, and he's huge. Obviously, put his oven mitt protective glove up and knocked the ball away. Long story short, they didn't call it interference, which I didn't. I thought that it was fair game to begin with, even if it was intentional. I thought that if you slide to the base initially, that you kind of can contort yourself almost however you want, and it's the fielder's job to get around it. I was wrong on that. You can't if they deem it intentional, like it was, they can overturn it, but they can't review it. And the umpire said after the game that they blew the call. So, um, it's to me, like, I don't blame the umpires for not it happens fast for missing the call. And I appreciate them actually coming out after the game and saying, yeah, we effed that one up. But why is that not reviewable? Like, I get sometimes like fair to foul balls in certain situations, I guess it's like hard to predict. But like, why can you not review a call like that? I don't know. That just seems so silly to me. So we can get into that before we break down the next game.
Yeah, I think that's a key piece here is I mean, even with the play we saw yesterday, and like I said, it maybe it was called right, maybe it wasn't, but I mean, we saw it, we talked earlier in the year. What was it? Cubs, Rangers, right?
Yep.
And that a foul ball was tipped and Jonah Heim couldn't catch it, and then a run scored for the Cubs on a pass ball from a tipped foul ball.
Hmm.
And the ump didn't call it and they couldn't review it. Like if we have the technology, I don't know why you can't review plays that
Right.
you have video of, right? So I think that's the biggest piece is why not if you review all these other plays, what's the line as to where now you can't review this one? I think that's kind of the issue.
And we don't need it to turn into the last 2 minutes of an NBA game where they
Yeah.
reviewed literally everything. But like plays like that, if like you said, if you got the system, like why are we not reviewing things that can be overturned? Like I get it if you call a ball foul that and then it ultimately was fair, would have been a triple, like, oh, it's tough to rule it, but like a play
I
like
mean,
that,
we
which you
saw it
can.
yesterday
Yeah, we
though.
saw that
And
last
not
night.
even
They
not
did.
even on a review though. We saw it with Chourio T's where the group they came together and they rule. I don't even think they officially reviewed it, and they still
No.
gave him a double. So I don't know. Yeah.
You saw in that review that umpire, he turned his head late. I think he literally did not see it because he immediately called a foul and then brought him together.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
But yeah,
tough.
with
I
the
mean,
I was gonna say with the slide itself, like it's funny you see the like compilations of Judge sliding like that, and people are like, "That's just how he slides," but it's like
yeah,
that's not just how he slides. He's
right,
always slides like that, trying to do what happened, right? Whether he's trying to block a ball or trying to block vision, that's whatever. But if
right.
you're intentionally, he's not doing that as part of the most effective slide possible, right? He's doing that to interfere in some sort, and obviously, it's not a natural motion
Mm-hmm.
to slide like that. So
Right.
I don't know. I feel like it's not really a dirty play either. And if you get
No.
away with it, good for you. But that's one that just doesn't seem right, I guess, when you're watching the game. But I don't know. I was gonna say it didn't necessarily have a huge impact, but it really did because of where the game was at when it happened. What happened after that
Yeah.
um could have been totally different. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, no, like you said, no ill will to Aaron Judge. I mean, you're allowed to impede the vision all you want. And I don't think he's a dirty player by any means, but that's a big miss on the umpires and the review system in general. And like we said, I feel like everyone was saying like, well, that's why we lost. I mean, it was a tie game. No, that would should have been 2 outs, and then the next batter popped out. But again, you don't know how you pitch a guy. You don't know what ends up happening in the game. We didn't need to let 11 more batters come to the plate after that. So like
yeah, but
it's tough to say,
who
but
knows?
it certainly did not help.
No.
So, and um, to that point, Abreu is kind of sneaky struggle. Well, obviously not sneaky in that game, but struggling almost a little bit. I know we saw that his ERA was only like 3.4, but before this outing, but his WHIP was like a 1.54, which generally you try to get close to 1. So that says that he's been working himself into some jams and getting out of them. Um, so yeah, obviously Abner's super young, not a lot of experience at all. We know he's had some control issues, but hopefully he can lock it down a little bit. But unfortunate for him to not be able to get the benefit of the call on that one. So,
Yeah. I mean, and he's gonna be a guy. I wouldn't expect his whip always to be real low. He's
right.
with any of those high strikeout relievers, come walks and some of the
Mhm.
extra stuff, but they work themselves out of it. Kind of with the version of Blake Snell when he's good. His whip's
Yep.
never gonna be low, but he's still effective. But yeah, it happens with the young players, and
Oh yeah.
especially the way we've used their pen and so on. I'm not concerned about it yet. But yeah.
So then going into yesterday's game, the Rays came to town and Bryce Wilson was on the mound again and got himself into a jam early. Ended up giving up a run in the first inning. And then there were no more runs scored in the entire game. It was a 1-0 loss. But in the bottom of the ninth, Brewers had something brewing. And with 1 out, Jake Bauer swung at a slider in the dirt and it got by the catcher. And right as it was getting by the catcher on his backswing, he hit him in the back of the head, the catcher. And the ball rolled away. Sal Frelick came in to score. Bowers reached first safely, so it could have been tie game, runners on first and third, um, and 1 out still. But the rule says that if you hit the catcher on your backswing, they can deem it interference, and no one advances, batters out, regardless of the drop to their strike. So unfortunately, it seems like the rules that we read seems like they called it correctly. Pat Murphy got ejected, and he did say in the postgame interview he believed that the ball was already by the catcher. Hitting him in the head didn't impede him at all. But honestly, as much as I love Pat Murphy personally, I didn't see anything in the rule they posted on Twitter that said it needed to impede the catcher or not. It just is if you hit it, they can call interference. So really just tough luck on a long backswing. And the ball, like I said, was a back foot slider. So the catcher slid that way too, where typically he wouldn't have even hit him in the back of the head. So just that one's a little more when you end up losing 15-5, it's like, oh yeah, we should have got the call, whatever, whatever. Last night, when it literally would have translated to a tie game in the bottom of the ninth, it's really frustrating. So that's a really frustrating loss last night. So really hoping they can bounce back tonight and get off the schneid a little bit, but frustrating.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue with that play last night, and again, it's an issue with the rule itself, probably not necessarily the team, but the fact that the catcher, and it's a normal motion to block a ball like that, but when you're moving forward, there should be an exception where if you move forward into the normal swing path, basically, or follow through, that it wouldn't work against the hitter to finish his swing. I will say, I don't have the exact quote, but Bauer's had a quote after the game that he wasn't too upset
Yeah,
about the call because they shouldn't have been in that situation if he hadn't have swung at the pitch
right.
in the dirt. So a little extreme ownership there,
Yeah,
but I don't know. It just sucks. Like you said, we watched Sal dive in there. We thought we were tied. Then we wait a while and we realized we're not tied. But we can't really expect to win a game when we hit like we did yesterday either, right? We had some runners in
right.
scoring position, and I don't think we had a hit with runners in scoring position. So, um, yeah, we're gonna lose close games. We're gonna win close games. I think prior to this, we were one of the best teams in the league in one-run games. So we're just moving towards probably what a more likely outcome is, which is not being super successful in one-run games one way or the other. So yeah, we'll
You
see.
gotta tip your hat to Ryan Pepio too, the starter for the Rays. He looked really good.
With those stirrups, he looked really good. You mean?
Yeah, that too. But yeah, the catcher not only slide forward, but to the right, obviously. So I feel like the rule should be written where if it's very clearly not intentional and it doesn't impede. But also, I don't know how you feel about it, but I've always been very like anti-drop third strike rule in general. The run should have still scored either way, but I don't know. The drop third strike rule was put in place like 100 years ago for when they were like lobbing the ball in, and it was, oh well, if you can't put it in play on the third one, you can just run if it passes the catcher. I know a lot of people will say, well, that takes away some of the art of catching, but I don't really understand why the drop third strike rule is a thing anymore. But either way, we would still be in the same boat whether Jake Bauers is out or not, if Sal, because they would have sent Sal Frelick back. But it is what it
Yeah, I
is.
can't say I've ever really been passionate one way or another on drop third strike, but
I don't
considering
know.
my youthful pitching career, it would have benefited me if I
Yeah,
didn't rely on the catcher to block that curveball. But I don't know. I think I kind of like the rule because you should. I don't know. I mean, generally in baseball, you expect your catcher to be able to
yeah.
block or catch any pitch. So
But to Jake
I
Bauer's
don't
point,
know.
if you swing at something so bad, I don't think you should be rewarded with first. I don't know. I guess.
Yeah, but it also would reward the pitcher for the batter effing up that bad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Swinging at it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But yeah,
All right. Well, the Brewers went 3-3 on the week. Um, couple bad plays away from maybe 4-2 or 5-1. So unfortunate. But Cole, I want to let you take it away on your untouchable pitcher or pitchers of the week.
You fellas are untouchable. Is that the thing? No one can get to you?
yeah. Um, you don't necessarily want to repeat right away in week two here, but we saw Hudson in person yesterday. On the since the last time we talked, since last Thursday, only 3 innings. But he had 4 Ks and they were clean, which is huge for the way that this team's going to operate. McGill also had 2 clean innings, only 1 K, which is surprising given his stuff, but not an issue. Koenig also went three scoreless, which is huge. He's kind of been he wasn't a guy I expected to impact the team much, right? But he's been pitching some high leverage situations, including that game Friday we were at, where I think he was on the, I think it was him in either the ninth or the 10th. He's somewhere in extras. They gave him the ball, so that was awesome. Um, and obviously Jake Bauers went one scoreless as well on Sunday. But
Hell
the
yeah.
main one I'll say, because we saw him in person, was Bryce Wilson yesterday. Earlier in the year, I was a little nervous that he kind of lost what he found last year with us, and he might be a pitcher of concern. And instead, he's taken the ball as a starter for us. He went 6 yesterday. after a tough first inning and was super valuable. So I think he's the pick for the untouchable pitcher of the week because he he's been super vital in the last couple outings when we're seeing guys drop like flies.
Yeah, shout out to Bryce Wilson. He's got the repertoire to be a starter, and he has been a starter before, but he was way better out of the pen last year, so I was a little worried, but obviously we don't have a choice right now. But yeah, great to see him
Yeah.
pick up the spot and give us competitive outings and give us a chance in some games where we're so thin. Where
I wish I could have given well, I guess he's going back to Nashville now, but Owen Miller a shout too, but his
Yep.
innings didn't go as well on the bump. But it was pretty funny. I was just out of curiosity, like looking at Savant for those two. And for some reason it tracked all of Jake Bauer's pitches as like a 60-mile-an-hour slider. So I thought that was kind of funny because I don't think it was, but
yeah, I did see that they were all popping up as sliders on the board. I was at that game as well. Yeah. All right, Cole. Well, who you got for hot hitters?
Stop dropping on fire, Ricky Bobby. I'm on fire. He's so hot right now.
Yeah. Again, it's only since last Thursday. But the guy, I'm a little biased too. But the guy that comes to mind is Joey Ortiz. In 19 plate appearances in those 5 games, he has a single, 3 doubles, and a home run. 1 run, 5 RBI, 4 walks, and a sacrifice, it looks like. So that's obviously a huge 5-game stretch for Ortiz, and Scoop started talking about him a little bit. But that's a huge, if he can, I mean, I'm not going to expect him to keep that pace, I guess, because that's a like 360 average. But if he can keep utilizing some of those skills, I think it'll be super helpful for what this team's trying to do and his ability on defense. He's starting to look a little more comfortable at third with his throws too. So he was huge. Otherwise, Gary Sanchez had 2 doubles, a single, and a home run, and I think he's hitting like third today. So I guess Murph likes that. So he agrees that Gary's hot right now.
Yes.
And I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this name in front of Brewers Twitter, but in the last 4 games, Jake Bauers also has 3 singles, a double, and a home run.
A big one too.
And 7
At the time.
strikeouts. So
Yeah.
that's not what we like. And I saw enough of that yesterday. But that was big too. And Reese obviously had a dinger. We had a good amount of home runs in the last 5 days, but you know, things will come and go. I think the one thing too that I saw that when I was looking for my kind of hot hitter, which I guess if I'm picking one, I'm giving it to Ortiz, was on the flip side. I think there's one name probably that Brewers Twitter would say is our cold hitter right now. Scoop, who would you say is our cold hitter currently?
Oh.
We had a little discussion about how some people on Brewers Twitter thought a certain somebody should be optioned to get some work in AAA.
Well, okay. Oliver Dunn.
Oh no, he actually probably should
Weimer.
No, I was gonna say Chourio. Do you remember yesterday? You're getting all mad about someone talking crap.
Yeah, no, there's no reason to send Chourio down just yet.
Well, I was gonna say Chourio, obviously, I think the strikeouts are something he's gonna have to work on, but in the last since Thursday, 5 games, 6 games, he actually has the 4th highest like average exit velocity, and is still kind of missing barrels, which is almost promising because he's still hitting the ball hard even with that. So I'm still not really worried about him at all. You just got to keep letting him get at bats and he'll figure it out. Yesterday he had a couple nice at bats, I thought, and he's still not afraid to swing early in a count, and I'm not against him doing that as long as he makes decent contact, which I guess is what he has to work on. But that was just one kind of slight positive. But funny enough, in less at bats, Oliver Dunn had the 2nd highest average exit velo in the last couple games. But yeah, his time might be kind of dwindling with the team as we see the emergence of Tyler Black.
Yeah, three things I think to add to all the things you just said there. One, Joey Ortiz. I wanted to say that I feel like he's had a few errors to start the season. So Brewers fans who didn't really know anything about him before this year, which I didn't know a ton about him, but um, give it some time because I think Joey Ortiz is a really good defender, and he may not have shown that in his first month as a Brewer, but I think he's going to be a really good defender. So I'm not worried about him. As far as Jake Bauers, yes, he hasn't been great offensively, but he does play really good first base. Sounds like Tyler Black's gonna be playing first, so we're gonna see what he can do in the outfield. Jake Bauers, that is. Um, and also, I think the only reason I would have been in the camp of moving on from Jake Bauers is if he was blocking Tyler Black. So now Tyler Black is here, and Oliver Dunn and Jake Bauers are still on the roster. So, for now, I'm cool with him hanging out for a little while longer. It's too late to give up because you got to clear him through waivers. So, and then the last thing with Chourio, yes, he's not a front runner in the MVP race right now, but he's doing okay, and he's 20 years old, and it's not the Jackson Holiday, like, oh my god, this dude is just overmatched really bad or in his head or whatever it is. We need to send him down now. Let him work it out. Obviously, he's got the contract, so it doesn't make sense to send him down anyways. But until he's really, really, really struggling, I would let him work it out. And like you said, he's hitting the ball hard. He's gonna learn to stop chasing the slider away. And he's gonna be good. I'm not worried about him. So well, we've seen even like seeing Ellie De La Cruz break out this year was making me think today, like, man, even if Chourio doesn't have a big year this year, like, so excited to see what he can do in the future. And obviously, everyone's in the same boat there, but way, way too soon to talk about sending Jackson Chourio down, in my opinion. So, Cole, what do you have for the Statcast portion of the podcast? Any notes?
Yeah, there wasn't as many things that kind of jumped out in a fun way. So my StatCast portion's kind of reverting to a little bit of a counting stat analysis. With the news of Tyler Black, I figured I'd just look at kind of my favorite thing when looking at his early season or early career outlook, and that's his like approach and his plate discipline. Since 2022, he's basically walking and striking out at the same percentage. It's like almost 17% strikeout and just over 15% walk. And that's from high A through triple A. And obviously with his speed, which I know you've talked about a couple times whenever we kind of bring him up, Scoop, that is just going to be a giant piece, I think, when compared to some other. I mean, we're talking about Chourio, right? He's kind of had a tough go with some strikeouts. I think Dunn's kind of too. A lot of those guys strike out a bit, where Tyler Black, I think this translates pretty well to the league. Obviously, he's going to see the best stuff he's ever seen in his life when it comes to the pitching. But I'd expect him still to have a pretty good ratio of walk to strikeout. And once he's on base, he seems like another guy that can just take second. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to the most. And it's what I decided to look at data wise. It's simple, but it's something small for fans to watch as Tyler Black starts to get ABs.
Yeah, I think it was like 55 stolen bases last year across Double A and Triple A. So dude can move. Moving into the standings.
All right, boys, round them up.
So Brewers dropped a half game behind the Cubs in the Central. The Reds are 2 games back of the Cubs, and the Cardinals are 2 games back of them. Pirates are a half game back of the Cardinals. So pretty bunched up, but still up towards the top with the 17-11 record as it sits moving into Tuesday night against the Rays. Looking at the rest of the NL, Atlanta still leads the pack in the East. The Dodgers are leading the pack in the West, though they're only 19-12, which I say only, but we all know why. And then the Marlins and Rockies are sitting at 6 and 7 wins respectively. The Marlins are 6-24. So, and then quick look at the AL. Baltimore and New York are tied at the top in the East. The Guardians have a 3-game lead in the Central. They got the best record in the American League at 19-9. And the Mariners have a 1-game lead over the Rangers in the West. And the Astros continue to struggle at 9-19. So I still will not count the Astros out until they're out of it completely, because they've shown that they can find their way into the ALCS pretty much whenever they want. So
yeah, and I know they got Valdez back on, I think, Sunday, and they're gonna get Javier back. and there's still a couple arms. I think like
Verlander just got back.
yeah, and I mean this is a name from the past at this point, but McCullers is eventually coming back this year, and there's a couple
Yep.
other guys. So some point they'll have some arms, but it might take a while. It's kind of not funny, but Blanco has been their best pitcher, and
Yeah.
he's like the one guy that no one knew who he was coming into the year. So
Mhm.
shout out to him. And they had a pretty significant roster move today. I wish Kean was here so he could pick the potato over Jose Abreu. Because that and they actually promoted a prospect, Loperfido, I think his name is something like that.
Okay.
But he plays outfield and first, and I guess he hits tanks. I think he went to Duke, if I remember, but maybe he'll pop off for him, and we'll see. But
Yeah.
I saw that obviously Jose Abreu like accepted the assignment, which
Option to
yeah, so which
AAA.
is,
Yeah.
I mean, good for him, I guess. He knows he has to work on it, and
Or not AAA, sorry, because they're in Sugarland. And I
it's
think
at
that's
like West Palm Beach.
Yeah.
Dude, Sugarland. I was looking today at Sugarland's jerseys. They have like it's the best jersey in baseball,
They got
possibly. Yeah.
some cool minor league stuff.
It's
Yeah.
sick. But yeah.
All right. Moving into the injuries and transactions for the Brewers. Obviously, Tyler Black was selected today from AAA Nashville. Owen Miller was optioned, and Wade Miley was moved to the 60-day IL. I can't remember if last time we said it or not, but Wade Miley
didn't
doesn't
yet.
Tommy John surgery, unfortunately. So he's going to go through surgery and rehab and decide if he wants to continue pitching. But we wish the best to Wade Miley. Super unfortunate. Still a guy who's going to be a good clubhouse guy. I'm sure everyone always says that he's a future coach. So wishing the best of him, but excited to see Tyler Black and Christian Yelich. The last couple of days we've heard has been out on the field running, throwing up to 120 feet. I think I saw. So hopefully we'll see him back soon. I mean, we're still 17-11 with Yelich missing like half or more of those games, probably more, and no Devin Williams still. So
Yeah.
can't wait to get Devin back to bolster that bullpen down.
I think I saw today a quote from Yelly that normally the way he feels right now, he would have came back in years past, but he's taking an extra day or
Yeah.
two to make sure he's right. So I guess that's good. And hopefully when he comes back, he's good because we could use him. I don't know. I'm curious. I'm kind of surprised by how teams decide if a guy needs rehab stint or not. Like, do you think they'll send Yelly on for a game or two?
I don't know. I typically see like rehab more as like if they miss like a really long time and they think
Yeah, that's
they
what I
can keep
thought. But
pitching,
like,
and or actually working that injury back up whereas with the back, I don't know. I feel like it's just kind of an on and off thing. So I don't know.
yeah,
But
yeah. But either way, hopefully in about a week, I think I don't want to assume, but I think he'll be back out there.
yeah. All right. So I wanted to ask you now. So pitchers and pitchers on Twitter at Brewers of MKE posted Chourio, Weimer, Frelick, their offensive stats aren't great yet. And then with a picture of Garrett Mitchell missing time with the hand injury. And I had said how many people said there's too many outfielders before the year. And that when I said that these things tend to work themselves out, that I was wrong. And like I said, I'm not giving up on any of them. And you had said you're not sure that that's considered working itself out when they've all been bad or mediocre. And I think that, I guess to my point was the issue of too many outfielders worked itself out as I thought it would. To my point, I'm not saying that it's a perfect outfielding situation, but I definitely didn't think we had too many good outfielders, if that makes sense. So you also did mention that Marcana has been better than all of them on a different
Yeah, he's
team,
been nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the thing in the off season was trying to utilize their value the best way possible, though, and I think that would have been trying to move on. And now, like, do you think Joey Weimer is worth less today than he was 2 months ago?
I mean, maybe a tiny bit. I still just think Weimer needs more time in AAA. He looks so uncomfortable with his toned down swing.
Yeah.
Dude still only played like a total of 2 months in AAA. I'm not giving up on him. He may have lost a little bit of value, but
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think he's ready to be up here, and I think once Yelich is back, that he'll go back to Nashville. So
Yeah, I would agree. But it is the roster starting to look a bit different with
mhm.
more lefties. We flopped out Miller for a lefty, and then depending on, I mean, if Weimer would get moved down for another lefty, we'd be quite left field or left
Yep.
hand heavy. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good thing to have, right? All those at least useful tools in the
Mhm.
minors, but um, I think we would have been okay without all of them. Like Brewer Hicklin's been lighting it up in the minors. Not saying he should be starting every day and leading off, but I think he could serve a purpose on this team just as
Yeah.
well as a lot of the guys. He's got speed. He's got some tools, but yeah, um, I don't know. Like you said, though, they're all young, and if you're not giving up on Weimer, I know you're not giving up on any of the other guys. So
Yep.
we got time on our side, and like we talked about last week, this season's kind of on house money, right? We're overperforming. I mean, hopefully we still can do something, right? But um, we'll just have to see and be patient. A young team's always going to take lumps.
Yeah. So down on the farm,
If it hadn't been for those meddling kids.
If it hadn't been for you meddling kids. Ah, meddling kids. If it hadn't been for these meddling laddies.
Brett Wichrowski, who you did a little segment on in the off season, he was promoted to Double A, the pitcher. He's been looking really, really good. Guy who I hadn't even really heard of before this off season. So good to see.
Yeah.
Isaac Collins was named International League Player of the Week, infielder from the Nashville Sounds. And then I have a note on here, and I don't know how it got deleted, but I'm gonna repeat it as best as I can from memory. Jacob Mizorowski was the Southern League pitcher of the week. For Biloxi down in Double A, he had 2 starts, and I believe it was 8 innings, 1 earned, and bunch of strikeouts and not a lot of walks. So good to see the Miz still
Two,
carving down there.
2 walks, 13 Ks, and
There it is.
opponents had a 151 OPS.
Okay.
That's a good stat.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's good to see him finally getting comfortable. It says here he sat 97 with his fastball, topping out 99.4, with 7.5 feet of extension. Yeah, so extension plus his max velo pitch at 99.4 is effective velo. So if you include how much closer to the plate he is, was almost 102. So yeah, he throws
Wow.
heat. I'm kind of curious. Like the Brewers are adding a ton of velocity to a ton of guys. Like you just
Mhm.
said, Wicharowski, he came into camp and all of a sudden was touching 99, and that's what he's been pitching at this year or topping out at anyways. Um, it's awesome to see, but it's also a little concerning when you look at trends around the league and pitchers' elbow injuries. But I'm not going to. I'm gonna hope we're doing it some way that avoids Tommy John.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
mean, Mizorowski is huge and long, so makes me feel a little better. But yeah, I do agree. It is a little concerning. But yeah, so
I
that's
was gonna say
go
a
ahead.
couple other guys in the minors. Edward Kai Fernandez, who I believe is at Wisconsin. Yeah, high A. He had a 1.583 OPS last week and was Midwest League Player of the Week. He's a guy that has been in the org since 2019, signed at 17, and now he's 22. His career to date hasn't been, I think, what he or we expected. He's set in the high 600s at OPS at every level. But he started really hot this year. He's got good speed, and originally when we signed him, we liked his ability of like raw power. So he's a guy maybe to keep an eye on. Maybe he finally takes a step that we thought he did when we first signed him as an international free agent in 2019. And then I know last week I actually mentioned Matthew Wood, but he has stayed hot, and I'm trying to find it. He is top 10 among all minor league catchers in walks per strikeout, contact rate, on base percentage, OPS, and slug. So again, if you're a catcher and you can get on base and you can have a positive at bat, that is a good way to get to the league. I know as a Brewers fan, I think we've seen a lot of backup catchers that were basically a negative as a pinch hitter. So good for him. But those are kind of the main extra guys I wanted to shout out. And Mike Bovee did not lose any steam in Biloxi. He stayed hot. I think he still, his on base percentage is still over 400. His OPS is still over 1,000. So
Yeah, a couple triples right away after
Yep.
getting moved up. Yeah. All right, and we move into the random game in Brewers history. Today I have for you, Cole, August 5th, 2007, Phillies at Brewers.
random.
Adam Eaton versus Jeff Suppan on the mound. Brewers scored 4 in the first and 2 in the fifth to go up 6-0. They gave up 1 run in the sixth, and then they gave up 5 in the ninth to send it to extras, 6-6. Matt Wise and Francisco Cordero gave up 5 in the ninth. Only 2 of those were earned. Manny Parra gave up 2 in the top of the 11th inning. In the bottom of the 11th, Ryan Braun led off against Jose Mesa to lead off the bottom of the 11th, and he had a fly out to deep center field. Now, the reason that this is significant, you may have seen that I've done a couple tweets recently talking about it because I think it's kind of mind-blowing almost. But Jose Mesa is the pitcher that gave up Rob Neaup's 3,000th hit back in 1992. So kind of cool that Ryan Braun faced him in 2007. So that's the significance there. Unfortunately for the Brewers, following Braun's deep fly out to center, fielder grounded out. Then Kevin Mench walked. Jeff Jenkins doubled. Johnny Estrada was intentionally walked. And he who shall not be named, Craig Counsell, lined out to second base to end the game with the bases loaded. So kind of cool. There's been a few pitchers that faced them both, which I thought was interesting. I put out that tweet the other day that 3 pitchers have given up hits to Molitor, Yount, Braun, and Fielder. So kind of cool. Some news from around Major League Baseball. We just found out Mike Trout tore his meniscus, so that kind of sucks. Cole, as someone who tore their meniscus, when can we expect Mike Trout back?
Yeah, there's 2 different approaches, and I had one on each knee. One they repair and they sew it, and you have to keep your leg straight for like a couple months when they try to get enough blood flow there. But often, especially the older you get, they don't try to repair it because it's just not really going to happen. And instead, they kind of trim it out and trim out the torn piece, and you can get back in a month to 6 weeks normally. But it really depends how your knee readjusts, right? So, but it depends on which of the approaches they take and the extent of the tear. Meniscus is like the cartilage in your knee. They call it like the shock absorbers of your knee, which I guess that's why my knees always hurt. But
Yeah,
we'll see.
yeah,
But
unfortunately.
yeah, that sucks. Yeah, Mike Trout. I mean, I don't know really a baseball fan who doesn't like Mike Trout, right? He just kind of was a real quiet face of the MLB, basically until Shohei took the baton from him in the last couple of years. I mean, Mookie, whoever you want to call it, but yeah, Trout. He was insane to watch early on, and he had an interesting start to the year going with a bunch of bombs, some stolen bases. But yeah, just it sucks, and that Angels franchise is pretty miserable right now.
Mhm. Yeah, and then the other thing that I wanted to bring up was former Brewers third base prospect and then pitching prospect until last year, who we traded to the Oakland A's, Lucas Erceg, is the setup man for an A's team that is winning more games than we thought. And him and Mason Miller are combining to be kind of scary 8th and 9th inning duo. Erceg's touching 100 miles an hour on the mound. So that's really cool to see. He went through some adversity, both on and off the field in the Brewers org. So good to see him thriving. Unfortunately, would have been nice. He was in the org as of the middle of last year. So it would have been nice to see him in our bullpen, but cool to see for him for sure.
Yeah, I guess the pitching lab missed one, right?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, good for him. I can't compliment the A's as a franchise, but I will compliment their players and their fans for what they've been doing.
No. You got anything else from around the league before we get into the mailbag that we got on Twitter?
No, not really. I'm trying to think of anything super eventful this weekend, but nothing comes to the top of mind. Other than, I don't know if did we talk about it last time, that the Fanatics and Nike discussion? I think we did, but I thought we just talked about ripped pants last time. Did we talk about the Nike?
Yeah, I think we did. They basically MLB kind of just threw Nike under the bus that it's all their fault and kind of absolved Fanatics, but I'm not buying it. Fanatics has been a cheap company for since I've ever heard of them. So I've had a couple experiences myself since they took over lids in the MLB shop, so that kind of pissed me off. So, but yeah, if we didn't mention it last time, sounds like they're going to remedy it by opening day next year. So bring back the full size lettering and the mismatch unis and the see-throughness. So.
And there was a discussion about Players Weekend, and I thought they said they were gonna have it. Now I thought I heard they're not doing it.
I saw they were gonna have it, but there wasn't gonna be like specific Players Weekend uniforms. So I don't know.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, so getting into the mailbag, got 3 questions that I wanted to answer. So, at Stellick Jeffrey asked us, any chance the Brewers sign Trevor Bauer? What do you think?
I would have to guess no. I'm not sure I really want him either, but we need pitching. But yeah,
I would personally say if they were going to, why haven't they yet? So that's kind of my opinion.
yeah. He just like, I don't know. He just keeps whining on social media and it's annoying, to be honest. Like for a little bit, I wasn't really in his camp, but I was like, oh, if he truly is innocent, I guess he deserves another chance. But he is just being obnoxious, to be honest, and that's kind of always what he is. So that's why the one time when we talked about it, I was like, he's just a distraction, no matter what.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The legality of everything aside, just from a clubhouse standpoint, he hasn't been known to be a great clubhouse guy, it doesn't seem. So
Yeah.
it's not something we really need with a very young team. But obviously, he's shown to be a great pitcher. So I'm not going to be upset if they sign him necessarily, assuming he didn't actually do the things that he was accused of. Next question is from Jackson Schmidt at jschmidt2345. The Brewers traded for Willie back in May of the 2021 season. Do you think we will see an early trade like that this year for starting pitching, or will they wait until the deadline further into the summer?
I mean, if they were gonna, now's the time, right? With what's happened. But I mean, if you look at it, we have still our 2 top arms in Freddie and I guess Colin Ray. Well, Wade was probably our second arm in planning, but we have those 2. And then we still have Ross, who has been okay. But I think the idea with him was that maybe he'll improve as the year goes on, as he comes back from that TJ a couple years ago. And then obviously Myers has pitched well to date, and I think he's earned his spot in the rotation. Wilson's been good as a starter in the last couple weeks, and I'd have to imagine Mr. Robert Gasser is on his way up real soon.
I agree.
So we have 6-ish arms there, and we probably, I mean, all of them won't start. Someone will move to the pen, but we're not in a much worse place than we were when the year started, honestly. So take that as you will. Maybe that means we always needed that extra piece, but we don't have it. So I don't think they're hitting a panic button now to trade any pieces unless something comes knocking on our door and we like it.
I think we see them keep playing out Myers and Wilson, and then we see Robert Gasser next, like you said. So I think that we're gonna try that first. If anything, if it happens in May, I think it's gonna be a real small move. You know, maybe at best like a Julio Teheran situation from last year. But I don't know. I would love to see them sign Zach Greinke. I know you said that Cueto would have been a good move as well. Obviously, Greinke maybe past his prime, obviously, but it's like 21 strikeouts away from 3,000. He obviously played here before. I could see him still eating some innings, but
yeah, I mean, he was still pretty effective pitching to contact last year, and I guess we just lost Wade Miley, who did that, and we could replace him with Greinke. But I mean, it's crazy to watch the way Greinke pitches now because he doesn't throw like he used to, but he still was relatively effective given age, and in everything.
And then the last question, you can sense a theme here, from Three Oaks Sports Nuts. Do the Brewers need another starting pitcher? I'm gonna say yes, they do. Maybe 2 or 3 of them, but the rotation isn't as bad as I think that a lot of people think it is. But if we think that this is a playoff team, I certainly think that we either had a couple guys come up from the minor leagues, whether it's Myers or Gasser, or we made a trade. So I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the scope of the question because we'll get one soon in Gasser. But yeah, realistically, we probably do. I mean, Junis will be healthy again. It'll be interesting. But like you said, I guess you got to think about the playoffs. And in a playoff game, we have one playoff starter. After that, I mean, not to say a bullpen game can get us through it though, right? One guy throws 3, someone else throws 3, and we're good. So that might just have to be our approach. But as we sit right now, you can't tell me we have 3 to 4 guys that are going to take take the ball in a playoff game.
Yeah.
And it's hard to watch some of the guys who signed as free agents around the league that have been successful. Like Flaherty looked really good today for the Tigers. He had like 14 Ks or something. There's a number of guys I think that were very acquirable that we obviously just didn't want. We wanted to take this alternate approach on. We wanted to stretch Junis out and see, and now they're saying they can't stretch him out because of his shoulder. So that backfired. We paid for Miley. He's gone for the year. That backfired. Ross is already pretty much worth what we paid him. We gave him like $1 million, I think, or just over, right? It was a really small deal. So
Yeah,
that's fine, but
seems like we are in the camp of keeping all of our youth trade bait, whether it be Mitchell or Weimer, which I don't hate. I mean, let it play out. A couple of them got to hit. You got to think. It's probably a good time to mention real quick. There was a report that came out from Bob Nightingale, I believe it was, that the Brewers were right in on Shota Imanaga before the Cubs upped their offer. So, I mean, yeah, they can say they were in or whatever, but if it's true, that not only says that we probably have a little bit of money to play with, and additionally that maybe next offseason that we go in on a starting pitcher of like the medium caliber size contract. So
yeah, I think especially if the international stacks are kind of high for the Brewers, and especially maybe our pitching lab is enticing, right? We have had success finding the best parts of pitchers. Maybe we are the next team that can swipe in on one of the top guys from Japan or Korea, because so far a lot of the guys that have recently moved over have done pretty well between Senga. Honestly, Yamamoto's been good other than like that first outing. And I don't need to say how good Shota's been. He's been nuts, and it sucks that he wears a Cubs uniform if apparently there's a chance he was going to be wearing a Brewers one.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Beer of the week
I'll have a brewski, Charlie.
is the Deschutes Tropical Fresh IPA. It's an IPA with what you guys can sense a trend. I like IPAs, but I'll try to mix in a couple other ones as well. But pineapple, citrus, mango IPA. Nothing else to say. Very good. Just great.
Just great.
Upcoming schedule. Brewers have first pitch right about now on game 2 against the Rays. Play a day game tomorrow, off on Thursday, and then they head down to Wrigley to see Craig Counsell. So I'll be there on Friday. 3 games there, then they head to Kansas City. So a lot of interleague play. And then final thoughts from me. I got a few Craig Counsell, or excuse me, few Pat Murphy thoughts, and then the first
Ooh, you
about
just
Craig.
messed up.
No. The first
Craig
one's
for...
about Craig Counsell. The first
All
one's about
right.
Craig Counsell.
All right.
So on the Chris Rose rotation yesterday, he had Pat Murphy on. So I'm gonna play you about a 45-second clip talking about he asked about Craig Counsell, and obviously Murphy and Counsell are friends, and I don't blame them for being buddies or whatever, but curious to hear the thoughts. So
but they'll be smart enough to give Craig his place. I'll bet you they give him an ovation before this thing's over this year. I really do. I mean, this kid is true blue. This is real. Craig Counsell loves Milwaukee, born and bred. I mean, any player that's from Milwaukee, Gavin Lux comes to town, he's from Milwaukee, counts as talking to him. You know what I mean? Any former high school basketball player that's playing that he sees at a game I mean, he's so into it, it's unbelievable. His whole family is. So, yeah, I think people will see the reality of it, but we'll try to beat their ass when we're playing.
I love that.
So I will say, obviously, Pat Murphy's not going to say, no, I think they're going to boo him. But wouldn't everything he just said right there be reason to boo? Like, he's true blue Milwaukee, in and out, through and through. He loves the city, blah, blah, blah. Like yeah, I don't know, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
I love Pat Murphy. I'm not blaming him for saying what he said, but I just feel like those are all reasons to boo him. But yeah, we'll see if he gets a standing ovation before the year's end. Maybe I don't know. I don't see it. He seems like public enemy #1 in American Family Field these days.
Yeah, I think it'll be a while till there's even a possibility that there's an ovation. And yeah, what he's saying isn't even false, right? It's true, I think. But at the same time, it is all true. And then somehow he still did what he did. And that's why Brewers fans get mad. So yeah, I'd take the under on half standing ovations for Craig Counsell.
Yeah.
Unless maybe he gets like kicked out or something in a big win.
Yeah.
Then he'll definitely get cheered off. Well, might still be boos.
The other second on my list of 3 things about Pat Murphy was they're talking about Contreras catching every day, and a reporter asked him something along the lines of, "Oh, that's risky having a guy catch every day. You gonna give him a day off?" And he said, "Yeah, we got a scheduled day off." I told him for him, it's August 5th. So kind of funny.
Yeah, we'll see. I will say, like in today's lineup, we're still getting at bats for Sanchez, which I think is a key piece. But I don't know. I think both Contreras and Murphy don't want him to get a rest, right? But it might not be the worst thing every once in a while.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
Yeah, and then last thing I had was Sal Frelick was on foul territory the other day. I see a funny story.
Didn't Murph approach you about Pedroia and ask you who your favorite player was, and he said that guy sucks? Wasn't there something like that? What did he say?
First it was my first spring training. My first big league camp was last year, and I didn't really know anybody. So Murph actually introduced himself as the video guy, and I thought he was the video guy for probably a week. I almost actually went and asked him for some like film after a game. I didn't end up doing it because I couldn't find his office, obviously, because it's not in the video room. But he had told me that, and then right after we were just talking. He's like, "You're from Boston, right?" Like Pedroia, I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "My favorite player." He's like, "Yeah, the guy's trash. I've watched him play a lot. Like he's really not all that," and kind of ruffled my feathers a little bit. But yeah, just Murph.
Did you stand up for Petey? We're like, that was my guy up in Worcester, Mass, yo.
Oh yeah, I did. I mean, I stood up, I think, too, because I thought he was the video guy. I think if I knew he was like, the assistant skipper, I probably wouldn't have talked back or anything.
Thought that was funny. I could see it. His straight face jokes. He's a funny guy. So that's all I had, Cole. You got any final thoughts for us before we check out game 2 of the Rays series?
I guess one thought is, can we get Sophia Minert like a desk or at least a table down in the pit when she's working? Our seats yesterday were right behind kind of the media area there where there's some of the photographers and stuff. And she's like working on a crate that they haul around cameras in or something, I think. Like, come on. She's the most talented sideline reporter in baseball.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, nothing too important, right, to keep me away from watching the rest of this game.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, a lot of injuries, and the Brewers are still right in the thick of things. So good stuff. Go Brewers. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening.
See ya.